Hello, welcome to Roll With It. I'm Nate, and Chris will be your host today again. I just want to apologize in advance for the background mess. Our dryer went out, so now we have to dry all our clothes the old-fashioned way. So,
Oh no, that sounds horrible.
yeah, it's awesome. But today we're basically going to be wrapping up Chris's creation of Leah, right?
Yes.
And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the spells and some of the final decisions and why we did it. I hope you enjoy. So I'll give it off to you, Chris.
Cool. Well, so one thing that we forgot when we did the session the other night was we forgot to mention that told us each that we could choose a uncommon magic item. And Nate and I did kind of look through and we kind of narrowed it down to a few, and then I bounced it off Jeremy, so that's why we didn't actually assign it that night, but we forgot to mention it. So that is one thing that has changed on my character sheet. And what I've added is pipes of haunting, and these are pipes like a pan flute that has 3 charges, and it works with a DC 15 wisdom save. I don't have a full description in front of me. I didn't write it all out, but it's, you know, suffice to say it has a magical effect. I believe it scares the enemy if they fail the save. So I did that. I decided that she would be with a traveling circus. The other idea I had, and I think that kind of fits better with the world. It'll be a really small group, but I felt like that was a better fit. And with that, I decided to change up her routines just a little bit. Again, because she's a bard and she automatically gets 3 instruments, I didn't see any reason to go with instrumentalist. I felt like that was redundant. So I did keep singer, decided to add tumbler and juggler, and I felt like those really fit with her acrobatic and dex skills, and it gave me some fun stuff to play with later, hopefully, in RP, and I just thought that would, I kind of liked the idea of at some point maybe she went off on her own and had kind of one-woman show doing all these different things. So so I went with that. And then in the entertainer background, I was supposed to have an item from a fan, and we kind of tossed around a couple things. The things in the book were pretty typical, and I know Nate had some ideas about props and things. And what I came up with is I decided that a locket that a fan gave her with a likeness of the hero that she idolizes in it. And so that that's going to be Peter, and we would know him as Peter Pan. I hope I'm not telling anything I'm not supposed to talk about. I hope Jeremy will be okay with me sharing that. So so she'll have that. And then the last thing was that he gave us all 500 gold pieces in addition to whatever our starting funds are. So I actually have 515 gold to start with. Now, I don't know, being a one-shot, I don't know how much I'll have to use that, but that's where we're at. And then there were a couple tweaks that a couple skills that I missed. You know, we read through a lot of the skills and I wrote down the page numbers, but when I went back, I realized there were a couple additional things that I hadn't included. One of which was, there was I forget which skill it was or which was, but it was a class ability that allowed you to double your proficiency bonus on 2 skills. And so with that, and it had to be one that, you know, it's the ones you're already proficient in, I guess. So I got to bump up my acrobatics and persuasion. They're now at +9. So hopefully, I'm sure I did that right because Jeremy's already looked this over and double checked it. So I should be in good shape there, but that's pretty sweet. So Bard's looking better all the time.
So how are you gonna just a question? How are you gonna like implement your tumbling and juggling thing into role play and just part of the session?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. I think in particular the tumbling. I haven't really thought much about the juggling, but who knows? She might get in a situation where she can use it to create a distraction or something. But the tumbling, I figured I'm going to include that as part of her bold action. When she's doing when she's in battle mode or whatever. That I think she's going to be doing a lot of tumbling, doing somersaults or whatever to kind of make her tougher. So is it there? And then I don't know. She might be somebody who kind of does that, getting around from point A to point B sometimes too.
This just jumping everywhere. That could be fun.
Well, like kids will get up on the curb and or like if you're with a skateboarder or something and they're going down the road, they don't just go down the road. If they see a rail, they like get up on the rail and they're they're doing stuff. Or like kids on bikes. Kids are easy to think about this, but like you're riding a bike and you're jumping off the curbs as you go and finding the little slopes and stuff to be climbing into trees or
yeah, that makes sense. So she's kind of like a younger
climbing
personality.
around stuff. So I'm going to try to incorporate that. So we'll see how that goes. Should be fun. So she the spells, I feel the one thing about the spells for Bard is that I feel that there's not a huge variety as far as, there's not a lot of spells that are attacks of a weapon nature, like magic missiles and things like that are not so much. But there were a few really cool ones that I think play really well into the charisma that the bards have. And in her case with the persuasion too, I think some of these would be pretty cool. So cantrips, I get 4 first level spells and 2 third level spells. Trips. So yeah, I guess I should say too, so in picking my spells, I really tried to pick things that were defensive or things that would support my team. Since you have that kind of cheerleader thing going on with a bard, I like to, and a lot of spells just are that way for the bard, so that helps. There's plenty of that kind of stuff. But since you've got like Song of Rest and Combat Inspiration and things like that, I think it's a really good fit to try to pick things that do that. And then the other is, like I said, things that you intimidate your enemies into leaving, essentially, or to incapacitate them in some way. So go with Blade Ward, because I felt that Leah, having discovered the joys of being part of the battle that she likes to later tell about, would really want to have a spell of that nature. So that one protects you from bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage from weapon attacks. So I thought that was pretty cool. She would be somebody who gets into a lot of scrapes, so she's going to need things that help protect her a little bit. With Prestidigitation, which is a really great spell. You can use it for doing effects. Actually, my druid character has a similar spell. It's not called Prestidigitation. It's called something else, but it things where you can use it to make a noise or do a small effect. A lot of people use it to clean their clothes, or change their appearance in a small way. You can also use it to light or snuff out a candle, a torch, or a small campfire. So, clean soiled objects. There's some pretty cool things. So I thought that would fit in well with her, since can use disguises and stuff. That would be another aid for her in her disguise kit. The last cantrip I went with is Vicious Mockery. And so this is a great spell. I know you like this one a lot too. Mm-hmm. Unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enhancements at a creature you can see within range. If the target can hear you, it has to succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next attack roll. So this one's really cool because it plays into your skill as a bard. It's definitely a really good, spell for a bard. And then it has a good effect. And like a lot of the spells in 5th edition, you can use them at higher levels and do more damage. So very handy. I like that one. So first level spells, again, because she a bit of an adrenaline junkie, she's definitely gotten into scrapes. So I did go with Cure Wounds, and I did feel like that was a fit. She'd do it for her own reasons more so than for other people, but she would care about being able to help her party or her troop out too. So and stuff, she'd need that. So kept that in. The next spell I chose was Dissonant Whispers, and it's kind of along the same lines as the Vicious Mockery spell. It's when where your bard your skills to create a discordant memory that only one creature of your choice within range can hear, and it racks it with pain. So they have to make a wisdom saving throw. They take psychic damage. It does more damage. It's 3d6. And it must immediately use its reaction, if available, to move as far away from you as its speed will allow. So it's a good defensive spell. Sends them packing, and and it's another one that really kind of helps the whole group. If depending on what the situation is, it has the potential to really help the group. Mm-hmm. With Bane, which is you can cast this on up to 3 creatures of your choice. They must make charisma saving throws, and whenever a target fails it makes this, let's see, whenever a target fails this saving throw, makes an attack roll or saving throw before the spell ends. The target must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled from its attack or saving throw. So it has an effect on what they're trying to do to you. So, yeah. And then the last one I picked for first level is Heroism. And this one is playing into that cheerleader aspect of the bard, right? So this one allows you to touch a creature and imbue it with bravery. Until the spell ends, the creature is immune to being frightened and gains temporary hit points equal to your spellcasting ability modifier at the start of each of its turns. When the spell ends, they lose any remaining temporary hit points, but that's really great. You can really help your party members from taking damage. I have a character that has a spell that it doesn't do. It's not this spell, but it does the same kind of thing where you get some temporary hit points back, and it's really handy when you can do that for your party members. Either you're healing them if they're down some points, for one thing, but mostly it just is really great because they're not taking damage during the battle if they have some extra hit points to use. So
that's a good buff, though. I mean, that can be used in a lot of different ways.
All right.
And kind of, yeah, it definitely falls in line with the character.
Yeah, definitely. So that's one thing about the bard spells, even though I feel like there's not a lot that do like damage. Military, and they really fit with the characters. So
yeah, bard isn't a damagey class. It's a
right.
all around good support.
So, and there's so many good support spells in this. So for second level, the first spell I went with was Cloud of Daggers. And this is one that does damage. It allows you to make a cube that's filled with daggers that spin. And it's a 5 feet on each side. So it's pretty good sized. And sometimes you can do damage on more than one creature depending on how it's situated. But they take 4d4 slashing damage. Spell's area for the first time on a turn, or starts its turn there. So it's a damage with the spell in the past, and I felt like she would continue to have a way to do some damage. She would think that was bold and handy. So
it's good
the next spell
too.
is, yeah, right. So and you know, I guess you could use it to, you could use it and create, you could like use it to, you know, block a passage, or you know,
just like
you could do some things with it.
My bard did in your game. I remember he used it to block a passage.
Right. Handy. So then I chose Crown of Madness. And this spell, what it does, you pick a humanoid of your choice that you can see, and they have to succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you for the duration. The target is charmed. While the target is charmed in this way, a twisted crown of jagged iron appears on its head, and madness glows in its eyes. And it must then use its action before moving on each of its turns to make a melee attack against a creature other than itself that you get to mentally choose. So this is one where you can potentially gain an ally. You know, you definitely gain an ally, even though there may be somebody who wouldn't otherwise be. And you can choose to have the target act normally on its turn if you want. Choose, or let's see, it says the target can act normally on its turn if you choose no creature or if none are within its reach. So seems like you can kind of activate it when it's ready. On your subsequent turns, you must use your action to maintain control over the target. So that's one disadvantage of this spell, is you have to use it or you lose it, essentially. But even so, it's got a duration of up to a minute, and I like the idea that you can have something else join in the fray and help you out, and you know, maybe pull focus off a party member who's down, or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of uses for that, especially if you can get like maybe like a leader with it.
Yeah. Last third level spell is Calm Emotions. The idea of this spell, because to me it's like plays into the idea of being sang a lullaby, or you know, having music or a story or something put you to sleep. It's not exactly, of course, the result of this, but it's a similar idea in my mind. So in this one, each humanoid in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point you choose makes a charisma saving throw. The creature can choose to fail the saving throw if it wishes. If the saving throw, then you have a couple of effects you can choose from, and one is that you can suppress the target to be charmed or frightened, or you can make the target indifferent about creatures of your choice that it's hostile towards. So you can, you know, break up a bar fight maybe, or, you know, a mob, angry mob coming at you, or, you know, or maybe turn it away from somebody else that you don't want hurt. So this talk about a support spell. I mean, I thought this was that.
I'm digging some of his spells so far. I mean, I remember when I had my bard, I chose a lot of more offensy because he kind of fit with him with some supporting class.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I did choose differently, which I don't think you used because you guys aren't using Elemental Evil. But at the time, I took an Elemental Evil spell, and I think it's called. I think it's Thunderclap, or is that the first level spell?
Wave.
What's that?
If you're thinking of Thunder Wave, I did look at that spell.
Oh, then no, I think it might have just been like clap or something like that. But essentially, it's just like a really loud noise that they can do that can push off enemies in a certain area that can affect them all. I think it's like 1d4 damage. It wasn't that much. But I kind of used that with him instead of I asked you for it being like clapping. It could be actually his voice since he was mostly a singer. And I was using that as a way that he could kind of project himself when he's singing or trying to give orders. So he can get like really loud if you wanted to. As a little old man, since he's this little tiny gnome. And I wanted to allow it to where he would sound like basically like a train or a bomb going off when he really wanted to speak.
Right, which is almost like there's actually a spell. I don't think it's in the Bard repertoire, or if it is, it's in a higher level maybe. Juice's character in the Provokers had it and used it quite a bit, and I know it comes up in the Dresden files too, and for some reason I just can't think of the name of the other spell. But yeah, I believe it is Thunder Wave.
I know the
maybe not though, because this does more damage. I'm not seeing it. Oh, well, you said you got it out of the Elemental Evil, which would be why I'm not finding it.
Yes, exactly.
Right now. And so I looked at Thunder Wave, which does a lot of damage, but I
that one's pretty
decided
cool,
against it because, but it's also a spell that can potentially do a lot of damage to your party. Yes. And I don't know.
No guts, no glory. Come on.
I don't know. I didn't feel like it was really a fit for Leah. Like she wants to get in there. Not everything here that I picked gets her in there, but I just decided not to go with that one. So yeah. So then for level 3 spells, again I only get 2. I picked Fear.
That's a good one.
You know, it's just, yeah, it's a pretty good one. You project a phantasmal image of a creature's worst fears. So here we're playing in like an Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz kind of a setting, and I figured there's going to be a lot of crazy things, and I loved the idea of essentially, you know, it's kind of like the Bogart from, right, that transforms into your worst fear, and I really liked that idea, and I felt like yeah, I felt like with her personality, she's one thing we didn't talk about with her personality that's kind of come into focus with me. She's probably going to be a bit of a smart aleck and of a taunter as well. We'll see how that goes. See if I can live up to the image, but yeah, so I really liked the idea of her kind of being able to do this, and anyway, it causes the creatures to be frightened and they have to dash away. So seems also again like a good support spell. I think anything that like allows me to do things that could benefit the whole party is really good.
Mm-hmm. Especially as a bard, everybody will love you for it.
I hope so. I hope
like the magic bag of tricks.
So cool. So the last thing I picked was Stinking Cloud. This one creates a 20-foot radius sphere of yellow nauseating gas within range, and it spreads around corners, and the area is heavily obscured.
That's not very ladylike.
It's not. But she's not very ladylike. She's a tomboy, so that's cool. So each creature that is completely within the cloud at the start of its turn must make a con throw against poison. On a failed save, the creature spends its action and reeling. Creatures that don't need to breathe or are immune to poison automatically succeed, and a moderate wind can disperse it. So,
So don't do it anywhere there's wind.
but yeah, I like the idea. Like the idea of having some area of effect. I'm sorry, what?
That is quite nice. So don't do anywhere there's wind or plan for the wind.
Right, right. So I don't know. I've had this in my repertoire before, and I never seem to end up using it. But we'll see. Party's gonna have. We already have, I believe, 2 wizards and myself. So we're not going to be short on people who can cast. So that is it for the spells. If anybody has any comments or thoughts on the spells I picked, or you have anything you want to talk about with it, we'd love to hear about it. Please do let us know in the comments and get a discussion going. That would be really fun. Curious to know what you would pick. So I think that's it for our character. What else do we have for tonight?
Well, I know we're definitely going to be talking about some news, which I know you're definitely have some ideas for. I kind of want to ask you, or at least a tip, which I should probably tell all my players to. When you're going to think about your character and think about their spells, start thinking about how you're going to explain it. As you started doing, which I actually really like, so I'm taking this inspiration directly from you. You don't even really tell me what spell you're using anymore. You just start explaining what happens. And from there, I can kind of pick it up. So I meta. But no. So when you start trying to explain what spells you're going to do, so of course some things tell the DM until he kind of starts getting used to what spells you have. Start trying to create kind of interesting ways that you can do some of these tricks, like maybe the crown of madness. You can actually think of maybe when you start talking, a crown starts basically forming on top of the head. Now it's kind of obvious, but another one would be like blade ward. What would blade ward look like when you're explaining this? Is it like a little hexagonal pattern that's above your skin, or is it maybe just a little blue light that floats around your body that tries blocking at least one attack? I mean, all these things are kind of these are flavors that you guys can think of.
Right. Yeah, because it's a sigil of wording in the air. So yeah, like it could maybe be. Yeah, you could like just depending on. I think if she were like a wizard character, then I'd probably have an element I aligned it with. But with her being a bard, maybe
it's something kind of like fancy looking. Maybe it could be like a little. Maybe it looks like a little phantasmal fairy, since she would be very expressive. So she can maybe do something really pretty with it, something kind of creative. So maybe it's like a little fairy with like a shield that kind of runs up and tries blocking, or a sword. Just something cute.
Or maybe it's musical notes that.
That'd be really cool too.
And maybe it's not so visual, but it's sound. Maybe when the weapons hit the ward, maybe you hear a little melody.
That'd be really cool. Kind of like you can kind of hear a melody around your body, and so something goes to hit you, you hear like a loud whoosh.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So many awesome ideas.
That's a cool thought, Nate. I'm really glad you mentioned that. I know we've put some thought in your game with Shay spells, but like there's so many that I haven't even thought about. Like what's this look like when it happens?
I'm having a hard time with Hunter's Mark though. Like, what does that even look like? Does it look like a little? I'll ask Emily and let her decide. But
right, yeah. I always think of it as like almost like a little black cloud over their head or something, or like a
really bad day.
Or like a sigil appearing on their forehead or something. And then in Howl's Moving Castle, where there's the rune or whatever that's on the table, and then he wipes it away and it disappears. So it would be kind of cool if it was like a rune or
I
a
kind of
sigil.
also thought of it as maybe it's not a visual thing, as you kind of said, but more of a sensory thing. Like everyone would get kind of more tuned with him. So it seems like he pops more. You can hear him more. You can see him better because you have all these advantages on him.
That's such
So
a
that's
cool
the only thing I was
idea.
thinking of. Yeah. So it's like you guys kind of go into primal beast mode, hunt,
or maybe he
kill.
becomes really bright as if there's a spotlight on him.
Right? That'd be cool too.
A little red dot appears.
Yeah, just like a giant red X over his whole body. Like, what the hell?
So yeah, that would be, and I think for her, with a bard, you know, if you can musical, I think that's pretty cool. Like I love that dissonant whispers is even described that way as a discordant melody. You can hear a lot of minor chords and you know, things that are a little out of balance. I love that idea. Yeah, exactly.
It's their life at that moment. But also I start thinking also about things like fear. What are you going to use to conjure up to scare things?
Right. Well, that one though, you don't choose. It's what the person is most afraid of that appears.
So I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's more like literally like the boggart in Harry Potter, that you know, it's what you're afraid of that you're going to see. So that one's kind of interesting because as the caster, you don't know what that's going to be. So I guess that one's kind of in the DM's hands to explain what it looks like.
Oh, and that's for you, DMs. What will your enemy's greatest fear be?
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of, I really wonder what a troll would be scared of.
Right. And I think that's a good reason for some DMs, you know, who like to get the character sheet from you. So Jeremy had to submit our character sheet. So he's had a chance to make sure that we caught everything, and he then knows what's in our repertoire. And
also, you're not a bunch of bloody cheaters.
Really great. Well, yeah, there's that too. But I mean, gosh, if you're going to take the time to play the game, you know.
Yeah, I don't understand if people are cheating these games.
Cheating's worth it, but I'm sure there are people that do out there somewhere, because it seems like people talk about it a lot. But yeah, it also gives them a chance to think about, well, how am I going to flavor this? And I know, like, for building from your backstory into, especially if it's a campaign, right? Finding ways to tie that stuff in. Or like that tournament that I'm trying to set up for us in the session I'm going to run, where I want to make sure that there's something for everybody in there so that nobody's left just watching the event. Yeah. That'd be really boring.
It is good to involve our characters. At least I try to do it with you guys.
And I like to really getting off topic, but I like to look at where your proficiencies are. Love the idea of having you guys involved in the story and being able to throw bits of history and stuff out there instead of saying, hey, you would know this in session, having you already know it, so that when it's appropriate to share, you just will know and be able to do it in character. So that's Leah Bold as Beer, Medial.
I still love that name. Still love it, man. I like the character too.
I really like it, and I need to keep that in my head as I'm playing her, because she is a challenge for me, but I think she's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited. So, is interested in watching that session. It's Jeremy Lilly is running it, and I will make sure to link his channel below in the description again. And it's at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 5 p.m. for those of us on the West Coast, but 8 p.m. if you're checking out the BridgadeCon schedule. So speaking of BridgadeCon, it is just days away now. We're down to 4 days. There's still seats available in some sessions There are some amazing panels. The Roll Up and Die crew is going to do ideas you can steal. There's some DM panels. There's a really neat one on doing voices. Chad Nick is hosting that, and there's a couple other players who will be a part of that as well. And I know I believe the 4 p.m. slot, an interview with, I already forgot his name, David A. Wesley, who is a long time, he's credited with inventing role-playing games in the late 60s. So that's an interview that I feel is a do not miss for every gamer. I'm definitely interested in catching that one, and I should be able to before my session. So
I definitely have to catch that too.
BridgadeCon.org schedule. There's, lots to do. You do have to sign up through the BridgadeCon site, and then the GMs will get in touch with you. And it's all for a really good cause. It's for Child's Play, which is an organization that gives toys and games to kids in hospitals getting serious care for their serious illnesses. And so it's an awesome cause. You can also hop over there and donate, buy a T-shirt, something. But hope you'll help. This is ultimately a fundraiser, but it's also a really great chance for all of us to get together as gamers. So last piece of news that I had, I feel like I'm doing all the talking today. Sorry, guys. But Drive-Thru RPG, I wanted to mention, is doing a sale on Halloween horror titles. So if you are trying to throw together a Halloween game before Halloween gets here for your group, go check it out. I got a really cool bundle of Holding the other day through them, but that was all Halloween stuff too. And then they seem to have a lot of really good titles on the sale. So and I think that's it for episode 6 of Roll With It.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, may your dice roll high.
And the DMs roll low. Bye-bye, guys.